Good afternoon, everyone. I feel like that last second and a half of the intro is always like, and go. It's like it feels like 5 seconds. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong. So, but here we are. We are at the beginning of August. This is kind of the home stretch for you MSPs out there that are trying to figure out how do I deal with my clients. And this is where everybody kind of hits us in a panic. Like starting about this month, we see people be like, "Oh, I need to get this going before my budget cycle starts. I need to get like you should have gotten this going back in February." But for some reason, no matter what we say, everybody waits until the last minute to decide when to do this. So,
Yeah. Well, and I was talking with a member just this week, and they'd been rocking along pretty good, but then summer hit them, and they had people on vacation, their clients were in and out, and they're coming back around. They have a plan. They have their strategic engagement plan that they're working on with their clients, and that's really good. But now they're kind of feeling it because they've got the next engagements are coming up, and not much has been done since the last engagements. And so they're really kind of working on how do we catch up from the summer craziness and get back on track, because they were doing really good. They're really happy with Q1, Q2. They're like, this is rocking. And Q3 hit, and as life tends to happen, it messed up their plans.
yeah, and that's where you want to kind of like keep this cadence going. We talked about that. Was it last week? We talked about cadence and being able to touch base with your clients regularly is how you stay on top of things. If you say, "Oh, I'm only going to do this when there's a problem," or whoever the squeaky wheel is comes to the top, then that's all you're ever going to deal with. But if you can make sure, and we even feel at this internally, like if you can make sure that you are reaching out to your clients, if you that you are proactively setting up schedules with them, that's why the QBR is important. It's not the content as much as it is just being with your client as a touch point. And we talk about that every once in a while. Even in our tool, we have two modules, one called touch point learning and one called client engagement. Skip, you want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about the difference between those two?
You bet. And it's really cool. And so I like the touch point alerting because it is super simple. All right. There is one thing to do on touch point alerting, and it gets done as soon as you put a client into a segment. That's it. That turns it on. So it is a light switch, and it is a safety net. And so when it goes off, it says, hey, you missed something. Now, we can use it proactively as well, but in my opinion, its value is in its safety net feature. Now, I get questions every time, so about how do we customize this or how do we customize that? And I'm like, there are no customizations. This is a safety net. Right? This is an alarm. It kind of, if you're an iron worker, assembling a high rise, do you really care if that safety net is orange, yellow, or gray? You just want it there, right? And so that is a great feature of the touch point alerting. Now, when you want to be more intentional and really tailor those alerts and those activities, then that's where the client engagement scoring really comes in. And you're able to be very specific and very intentional about what those plays look like in your playbook. And you still get the same functionality of forecasting. We have this coming up, or we missed these, and so we can come back around on those. So two very different tools, but at the start, they do the same thing. That they help you make sure that you're engaging with your clients, and then get more detailed after that.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need a nudge. Like look in your if those of you are Gmail users like me, you get a nudge like, "Hey, you never responded to this email," or "This person never responded to you," and it's called a
Mm-hmm.
nudge. And those remind me, "Oh crap, I did have a conversation going with that person. I didn't hear back from them." And it reminds me to reach out and like, "Oh yeah, I got lost. I got busy and I completely forgot about this initiative." And so, as a vendor, we have to remind our clients, "Hey, here's where you are. Here's what you wanted to do." and we're just kind of pushing on that to make sure it works. Every once in a while, I'll get a client that really hates, the timeline like idea. Like you say, hey, you wanted to sign up in March. Here I'm reminding you, if you sign up this month, here's what your next 6 months can look like, and they can go off on you. Like for some reason, like reminding them of a timeline that they wanted to do. Just I don't know if it's because they're feeling overwhelmed or they just love shooting from the hip, but I am a shoot from the hip kind of guy. You throw me in front of an audience with no plan, I'll figure something out. Other people love to have their entire year planned out. And people who plan out their year can feel more genuine and more valuable to their clients, even if they're not as good of a tech or not as good of a business, because they've created their relationship. And a touch point is something as simple as picking up a phone, sending an email, buying a cup of coffee, just a touch to their day where they're reminded that they are not alone, that there is more out there than just their MSP, that they have partners that are helping them. And that goes a long ways to helping people, especially amongst MSP clients where they usually only see you on a bad day. You got to get those out. So that's why our client engagement touch points are really valuable, because you're like, hey, let's have a valuable, engaging activity that we do together, whether it's a QBR where we talk about what your business is doing, where it's going, and how we can help it with technology, or if it's just a simple Office 365 audit where you're coming in just truing up licenses. Make that a lighthearted discussion. Like, hey, we noticed that you're using 25 licenses out of 45. Let's trim that down and save you some money. Or hey, you're almost about to max out your licenses. Next time you hire somebody, it's gonna cause a hiccup in the hiring process. Let's expand that out. Oh, and by the way, how is hiring going? How are things going with your employees? And you ask those questions, and now you humanize yourself. You're not just the tech. You're not just the person sitting across the table trying to get as much money out of them as possible. You're now somebody who actually cares. And you won't get that feel if the only time the client sees you is when you walk in and fix a computer. I can't tell you how many clients I helped out when I was doing my VCIO work that I walked in there and they hadn't had a conversation with a technical person in years, because the person would come in, fix a computer, fix a printer, leave the building.
Yeah. And just,
or
they even here.
And they were missing so much revenue because of that.
And Adam, you touched on something. I mean, I experienced this personally as well. I can, very, very much relate to this. You do engage with your clients. You check with them like, hey, let's follow up on this. Let me know what you think about this. There's something that goes out there, and then your clients never respond. All right. And time rolls on, and all of a sudden you're scrambling. You're coming back around going, oh, where was that? Did anybody ever respond? Again, very experience driven here. We used to run into this so many times when we would present proposals to our customers. And, a lot of these, we were selling some big projects. And so we would sit down, we would have a great conversation. We would lay out the quote, the scope, and all these objectives, and the engagement would go really, really well. And we confidently felt that the client was going to sign off on that. But as in every case, they need to check something, right? They would look at it and go, all right, I like this. This sounds really good. But, and then, there's a million different sentences that come after that. And our issue was that we would leave that engagement confident that we'd sealed that business, but then it might be weeks later when we're trying to ramp up and do stuff. We're like, hey, did we ever get the official yes on those? And it was this big scramble. Was it a voicemail? Where is his email? Where is the response from the clients? And that's what I love about our proposal tool. When you have those great conversations with your clients and they're like, oh yeah, I like this, but all right, you're waiting. That link that you send out to them is a great touch point, right? It is a message that went out and says, hey, this is what we got. You get the thumbs up or thumbs down. And when they give you the thumbs up on that one, it actually changes the project and the platform. So your team knows. So there are ways to automate these touch points, whatever they look like, whether it's, just a phone call, whether it's a play in your playbook, or it's a proposal and a conversation that you have with them. These open loops can really come back and bite us, right?
Yeah.
And so developing ways to close these is really important to that consistent delivery in your business. And so sometimes you just have to keep working at it, but you've got to develop a consistent process to make these touch points regular.
Yeah. I remember my wife told me a story once about an older couple that when as they were married, like one of them would leave the room and like they were at a party or somewhere, and then on the way out, they would touch their companion on the shoulder. Just, touching, making sure I'm here, make sure I'm leaving. Not in an overly like I need to control you feel, but more of, hey, I acknowledge you're here. Just want to let you know. Just that touch when you get through a room. And that's kind of what you want to see with your spouse. You want to treat your clients kind of something similar, like, hey, just acknowledging that you're here. Let's make sure things are going well. Some kind of touch. It does not have to be a big old QBR. It does not have to be a big old strategy session. It can be something as simple as, hey, I was just checking in on you, see how things are going. Everything going well in your business today? And that one little tiny brush of the shoulder is going to acknowledge them. And so they reconnect with you. There's some other psychology to that. Like, you can only have so many people in your circles, right? You can have like something like 7 people in your inner circle. You can have like 12 in your outer circle. You can have 25 in your extended circle, 75, and then 150. And in general, with your clients, you're in the 150 circle. And so what you want to think there is, how do you stay in the 150 people they know circle? And that's very simple. Somebody you see on a daily basis or a monthly basis. That's all it takes to be in that circle. Now, because that circle includes family, friends, relatives, and mailmen, people they talk to on a daily basis. This is why in the manufacturing industry, they try to keep manufacturing companies under 150 per director. It helps you relate to your people. So you, as a person, need to think, in my clients, who have I not talked to, who have not touched on the shoulder in the past 30 days or past quarter? How do you get in front of them? How do you touch them and help them understand that you're there, you care, and if they need anything, you're around? Because if you don't remind them that you're around, you're going to fall out of that circle. And when they have a problem, they're not going to turn to you. They're going to think, oh, I need to solve this problem. They're going to think, oh, hey, let me ask Skip how he does this. Let me ask, Jonathan how he does this. Let me ask Susan how she would do this. They're going to go to the first people to come to mind. You want to be one of those. It doesn't take a lot to get there. We just get so distracted in operations, working tickets, working on urgent items, that the idea of taking somebody out for a cup of coffee does not occur to us because we just don't have the time. But I'm here to tell you, do you not have the time? I mean, can you afford to lose this?
That is true.
You can have 5, 10 coffee appointments in a week, 15-minute or 30-minute coffees, and have a great time with these clients. And that's only 3 hours of work. You sit at a coffee shop, you do your open hours, and you leave. Or you stop by a client, drop off some donuts. Takes you 10 minutes. These are touch points. But also, you need to have engaging points so you're building the relationship. Touch point puts you in that 150. If you don't get to the 75, you need to engage.
Yeah.
You need to be part of their business and who they are using to be successful. And that's where you engage with the QBR. That's why we have 2 modules. Touch points, safety net. Did you even look at this customer in the past 30 days?
Yeah.
Versus client engagement. Did you talk to them other than working on tickets?
Yeah. Well, and you've hit on this kind of the psychology of relationships, but in business as well. I think it was Ingram that put this little statistic out many years ago, and it says that it takes 7 times more revenue or 7 times more expense, all right? And that's money, people, time, everything wrapped into that. 7 times more to gain a new client than it does to maintain an existing client. So, if you're looking at where you're going to spend your time, it's with your existing customers to protect that revenue. So if you don't, then you're going to have to spend a lot more time, energy, money to replace that revenue. So there is a real incentive to our organizations here to do that. A little note here, I would be really interested to know where that figure came from. I've talked to people about that, and others have heard that. And I'm wondering if it's not, some sort of just urban legend, but it seems to resonate and connect with everyone. So if you know where that statistic that Ingram was quoting many years ago comes from, please shoot me a message. I'd love to dig into the specifics that a bit more, because I think that's really important to understand that we need to maintain, because it's going to cost us a lot more if we don't.
Yep, definitely. And it's also one, like, pick up the phone, right? And so if a client calls you or something, pick up the phone. It costs you like it's like a 7 calls or 7 times more if you let something go to voicemail. So then you have to call them back. They're going to call you back. You're going to play phone tag. They're going to keep calling you. Whereas if you just pick up the phone, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's things that you do that make you inefficient with your time because you are trying to ignore things like, I don't have time to deal with that right now. Okay, that's going to cost you 7 times more effort down the road. If you were to have picked up the phone, just called your contact or sent them an email saying, hey, how are things going? Just wanted to check in. We haven't talked for a few weeks. So make sure that everything is going well, that you're enjoying your summer, whatever. Be kind. Then they might say, oh, yeah. Hey, by the way, did you ever look into, and they might remind you of a project that you were working on that you forgot about.
Mm-hmm.
So these touch points versus engagements. Touch point, just tap them on the shoulder. Engagement, say, hey, you want to go out and get some coffee and actually talk through this stuff? Can we do an audit of your network and make sure you're up to date? That's an engagement. I went in and fixed a ticket does not count.
No,
Does not count.
Absolutely does not.
So that's why with our client engagement scores, we talk about how we weight it by who you talk to, when you talk to them, and what you talk to them about. That's how you get scored. You don't just get scored. People are like, oh, can I just automate that through CRM? You're missing the point.
Absolutely.
The point is that you put energy into this relationship.
Yeah.
So,
well, and so here's my standard story on this one. We were working with a customer, and obviously I'm running the technical team, and they're just having a ton of wireless issues. There's a ticket every other day in the queue about somebody not being able to connect. And so I'm pestering the account manager. I'm like, you need to talk to them. We've got this wireless project prepared. We need to get this moved down the road. And they would say yes. And all right, yes. And they would go out there, and I would see activity in their logs. I'm checking up on things. Did we do this? Yes, they went out. They logged this activity. I'm hearing from the sales executive, they're submitting, expense reports for donuts and different things. And it all seems like things are going well. But then finally, one of my team members came back and said, hey, Skip, every time he goes out there, he's just hitting on the receptionist. She's really hot. And that's as far as he ever made it. It was like, oh, well, no wonder we aren't getting anywhere, because we're just, checking a box, but not actually really engaging at the level that we need to talk about the things we need to with the right people. So
yeah.
It's really important that, yes, we take on the touch point alerting. That's your safety net, but you can't rely on that. You've got to make sure that you're being intentional about at least a few of those in your audience and your topic on those.
Yeah, and I talk to my kids about that all the time. Like, oh, I got this friend, Susie, whatever. Like, oh yeah, what's her favorite color? Blank. What do they like to do? Blank. Are you sure they're your friend, or are they just somebody you happen to sit with? You
Hmm.
know, and like, what do you know about your client? Do you know where their biggest source of revenue is? Do you know what stresses them out every day? Are you sure you're engaged with this client? Oh yeah, we
Yep.
go to them all the time. Okay, what do they make their most money off of?
Hmm.
What's their biggest stress in their business right now? Well, that's just not part of what we do. Yes, it is.
Should be.
You are a managed services provider. You're providing them services for what end?
Hmm.
Oh, to keep the no. Are you helping them generate profits? Are you helping them build new products? Are you helping them as a company? If not, you're just a janitor.
Yep.
Sorry. You are just an operational support. You are no different than the garbage people who come in and take the garbage out, or the
Hmm.
electrical utility that makes sure things are turned on. You're just an operational expense. If you come in there and you're helping them meet their goals, you understand what they're trying to do. And trust me, I've been in IT for a long time. When I made that switch to engage with management, when I made that switch to understand what the business was doing, I was able to make significant improvements in every company I worked for as an IT person, because I was able to bring them tools and possibilities that they had no idea existed.
Yep.
So you need to be that person. It doesn't require a lot of effort, but it does require some effort. But it's a sure as
Yep.
heck a lot better than sitting behind your desk clicking on emails all day. Actually having a conversation that matters, making a difference in a company. Touch points are important, but you need to value them more, because
Yep.
you see them as something that you just need to do rather than something that you must do. Like, just as important as a tier one ticket coming in, meeting with this client, it is not urgent, but it is one of the most important things you need to do.
There
Stop
you go.
just working on urgent items and start working on important ones. I like this
That's it.
topic. It's a hard one because we see people struggle with it so much. And if they would just make a simple change to their life, a simple change to their system, they would do so much better. That's why Skip has the touch points. He has the client engagement scores set up. They are two distinct different things, but they're extremely important.
Yep.
All right,
That's
everyone.
it.
This has been a great topic. We will cover this again before the end of the year. I promise you. It's on the
Yep.
agenda. So we'll see you all later.
See ya.
There we go. Actually got that one right.